So in this lecture, we'll be talking about the costs and benefits of quality. The aims are to describe the internal and external benefits of quality for an organisation, to highlight the problems caused by quality failures, describe the costs that quality failure inflict on an organisation, describe the costs that implementing quality results in, and introduce the various quality models. So by the end of this session, you should be able to explain the internal and external benefits of quality, illustrate the problems caused by failures in quality, describe costs that failures inflict on the organisation, describe the costs that implementing quality results in for an organisation, and understand a number of quality cost models. So hopefully you can see this is quite a practical, quite an applied lecture. Defects are not free. Somebody makes them and gets paid for the privilege. That's a quote from Deming, one of our quality gurus. Particularly like it because it does sum up the problem you have when you're in an organisation that you've paid somebody for making mistakes. So we call this the non-conformance iceberg. These are the things that you can see: the scrap, the rework, the loss in capacity, the rescheduling required, long lead times and delivery failures. Tip of the iceberg stuff. This is what you see. What you're not seeing underneath are all the problems that have happened in your production, your operations, your supply chain that have actually led to this. So quality costs, we divide them into external failures and internal failures. So externally, and possibly the headline costs that you'll see, are warranty and servicing costs, product liability, maybe any litigation if you're sued, complaints, loss of goodwill, and the general inconvenience to customers. Internally, you'll be seeing scrapped materials, scrapped goods and scrap services, wasted time, reworking and retesting. You'll lose capacity, you'll get lower yield, you'll make fewer than you thought, your downtime will increase, you'll do a lot of rescheduling, you'll have delays in your service, you'll have disruptions to your processes, and you'll focus on troubleshooting, not improvement. We often hear people being celebrated because they've solved problems that were faced because of failures. That's actually not ideal. You want people being celebrated because they've designed better processes, so nothing did ever go wrong. Prevention and appraisal. Consider this example. A Big Mac meal is given to a customer, but it is cold. How could this error have been avoided? What would you do? Well, you could ensure the product is right before sale, or you can ensure the process cannot make incorrect products. So ensuring the product is right before sale, you could maybe measure its temperature, but if you've got a really robust process, then it should not be possible to make something that ever goes out cold. So what are the costs of prevention and appraisal? Well, preventing failures, you've got quality planning costs, design of quality systems, staff quality training, preventative maintenance, you've got supplier development, that's quite important, actually going and training your suppliers so they know how your systems work. You've got certain quality procedures such as the ISO 9001, which we'll talk about in another lecture. Time spent problem solving, improving your process, and measurement of customer satisfaction during processes. Then you've got appraisal costs. That's your testing and inspection, maybe at supply of goods and services, goods inwards. You've got internal service process testing. You've got measurement of customer satisfaction after the process. You've got quality audits. And this is all from Feigenbaum, one of our quality gurus, Total Quality Control. So this is our first model of cost. So what we're measuring here is our increased ability to meet customer requirement against the cost per good unit of production. Now we have prevention costs. Those are costs associated with making sure our process works, and appraisal costs, that's our measurement costs. And what we see here is that at very low investment we get an awful lot of costs due to quality, failure costs, and as we invest, we don't need to invest too much more, those fall away. We've still got a certain number because getting perfection is obviously almost impossible. We get this nice decrease, and what we really want to do is try and figure out where we get the maximum benefit. So here's a different model of cost. Here we have our quality level, our costs per good unit of production. So costs of appraisal plus prevention is here. Here's our failure costs, and this is our total quality costs. So we can see that as we try and drive failure towards absolute zero, the total cost of quality goes up, because trying to get perfection, spending more and more and more just to try and eke out that last few percentage actually massively increases the cost. So if you want absolutely zero defects, it's going to cost you quite a lot of money. So what you have to try and do is to decide at which point it's sensible to stop spending money on prevention and appraisal. Obviously that depends on what business you're in. If it's pens, well, you're probably down here. If it's medical equipment, I'd suggest you're going to be spending a lot of money driving to zero defects. In this model of cost, we can again see our cost per good unit of product and our quality level, and here's our cost of appraisal plus prevention. But we can see here it actually hits a level, it doesn't go asymptotic. Our failure costs dropping down to zero, our total cost of quality hits here. So we can see that actually achieving perfection in this case is possible. It's a different context, and here we see the cost. This may or may not be economically viable, but it is achievable. Taguchi's theory of loss, quality is a predictable degree of uniformity and dependability at low cost and suited to the market. Losses begin to accrue as soon as a quality characteristic of a product or service deviates from whatever the nominal value is. Once the specification limits are reached, the loss suddenly becomes positive and constant regardless of the deviation from the nominal value beyond the specification limits. So continuing this, previously losses were measured only as cost incurred to the company, so that's what it cost the company in terms of loss or scrap. Taguchi actually included societal costs in that. So what's the loss imparted to society from the time the product was shipped? This captures the potential loss of goodwill, wasted time because parts don't fit together. When you buy something faulty, Taguchi was taking in account of that loss of goodwill that you felt when you bought something that didn't work. Loss is always expressed in financial terms in whatever currency that might be. This is the capability index. The capability index is an upper specification limit, take away a lower specification limit, divided by 6 sigma. You set the limits upper and lower. In our illustration you can see they're evenly spread left and right of the mean. They might not be. You might have a lower limit much closer to the middle or not. It depends on the process. But overall what this is saying is that the process is not in control if that distribution breaches the limit, and that is plus or minus 3 sigma around the mean of the measurements you're taking. If your measurement is greater than 1, then it is in control, and that would mean that the upper limit take away the lower limit divided by 6 sigma fits. If it's less than 1, then it is not in control. Now this is different for Taguchi's loss function. This is characterized as the moment you move away from the nominal mean, you actually start incurring loss. So how do we look at this figure? Here is our nominal value. We're trying to say drill a hole of 5 mil. The moment you start moving away from that towards an upper or lower limit, there is a loss being incurred. What's the benefits of reducing quality costs? Well, the internal benefits, you're reducing costs, increasing dependability, making things faster, you're boosting morale, you're probably going to get more customer retention, you're going to get better profits. The external benefits, well, the customer gets the correct product or service, they get the correct specification, appropriate intangibles, customer satisfaction, customer retention. So what's the effects on the 5 performance objectives? Well, speed, we've got fast throughput on internal and short delivery time external. Internal effects for quality, error-free processes, externally consistent to specification. Again, we've got flexibility. Internally, you've got an ability to change. Externally, you've got a wider range of product services, and you've got the ability to make adjustments. Dependability, well, internally you've got reliable operations, and externally you're probably delivering on time. And all those things are driving towards cost. Internally you're going to see higher productivity. Externally you can either offer lower price and or you can make more margin. Internal quality can improve throughput time, operational reliability, and total productivity. So quality improvement brings advantages that touch every area of an organisation. Performance advantages are reduced defects, reduced rework, reduced costs, increases profit. So you might increase sales, market share and revenue, return on sales, return on investment, more customer retention, greater repeat business. You might reduce your marketing costs because you're keeping those customers. You're adding value, decreasing price sensitivity, because if you think about the things you buy, some things you're less price sensitive because you just like them, you can trust them. And you might be able to increase your margins, that's your profit. So quality improvement brings other advantages such as cultural advantages. It creates belief from your staff and your customers. You might even reduce staff turnover. Might create better brand status, people might trust your organisation, get that support from the staff, you get a better climate for customer relationships, compensation for problems. If you do have issues, people often forgive those companies they trust, and when it comes to mergers and acquisitions and political responses, maybe people will be very open to buying your firm. And why else would you do this? Everyone else is doing it. So when we're looking at the service package, you're looking at supporting facilities, the physical resources that must be in place before a service can be sold. So golf courses, ski lifts, hospitals, aeroplanes are good services. The facilitating goods are the material consumed by the buyer or items provided by the consumer. So examples of food items, legal documents, golf clubs for the golf example, medical history in the hospital. Information. These are the operation data information that's provided by the customer to enable efficient and customized service. Example are the medical records, seats available on a flight, the customer's preferences, location of customer dispatch, a taxi, all these sorts of things that you need to know. Service is interesting because it fails in front of the customer. Products are manufactured and then you deliver them out. When they fail, often you don't see them because the customer has them in their private spaces, maybe in their home, and the failure might occur sometime after purchase. Service is instantaneous, so you're serving somebody, so when failure happens, it often happens in you, the provider's hands, right in front of the customer. So what does that mean for business, and what should you do as a business manager? So explicit service, these are the benefits readily observable by the senses. They're the intrinsic features, they're the things that you expect when you buy something. So if you're buying a meal, it's the quality of the food, the attitude of the waiter, it's the ambience of the restaurant. The implicit services are the psychological benefits or extrinsic features which the customers may sense only vaguely. So, privacy in a loan office, security in a well-lit parking lot. Is your your restaurant warm enough? Are your guests, comfortable? It may look great, but are they truly comfortable in where they are? So classification of service failures with Poka-Yoke opportunities. So provider errors, task. Are we doing work incorrectly? Treatment. This is the failure to listen to customers and the tangible failure to wear the clean uniform. And the customer errors, typically around preparation. They may fail to bring necessary materials. They may fail to follow your system flow. We frequently see this in restaurants, somebody coming in through the outdoor. And resolution, failure to signal the service failure to you. Customers often don't tell you that something's gone bad, and then they complain publicly, but they never told you. So let's recap on the costs of service quality. The failure costs. External failure costs are customer complaints, warranty, liability, legal judgments against you, loss of repeat service. You've got detection costs, which is your process control, peer review, supervision. Customer comment cards are useful, and inspection services. And prevention costs, that's your quality planning, your training program, making sure your staff are fully trained, quality audits, data acquisition and analysis, any preventative maintenance you might do to stop any downtime. You might evaluate and even train your suppliers, and good recruitment and selection. Your internal failures are often most visible in terms of scrap and rework, and your recovery is to expedite, try and move things through more quickly, and you're looking at labour and materials. Customer satisfaction. All customers want to be satisfied. Customer loyalty is only due to the lack of a better alternative. People will say, oh, we have really loyal customers. I'm like, well, you do until they've got a better option. And brands or all of these things, they're only very fleeting, they're very intangible, and they're easily lost. Giving customers some extra value will delight them by exceeding their expectations and ensuring their return, but we do give that with a big caveat in that if you exceed their expectations, whatever you did, they're going to expect that next time. So expressing dissatisfaction, when dissatisfaction occurs, you're going to see two things: action or no action. So action may come from public action. So they may seek redress directly from the firm, they may take legal action, they may make a complaint to the business or private organisation, government agency, whoever they complain to. Or more frequently these days, they're going to put something on the internet. Privately, they may just stop buying the product or boycott the seller, or they may warn their friends about the product or the seller. It's very difficult to counteract those things. Or they may take no action. So actually in this situation, no action is bad because you've got a customer who's dissatisfied. Public action you can address. Ideally they'd seek a redress directly from you. Private action is also difficult. So we can see from this flowchart that we must try and facilitate this dissatisfaction leading to public action, and then ideally seeking redress from you and the firm, and then you can deal with it. So trying to create this pathway is absolutely key for any organisation. So customer feedback and word of mouth. The average business only hears from 4% of their customers who are dissatisfied with their products and services. Of the rest who don't bother to complain, a quarter have serious problems. So the complainers are more likely to stay with the supplier than the non-complainers. And the complainers would stay as customers if their problem was resolved, and most would stay if the problem was resolved quickly. So that really shows that we've got to get resolution, we've got to do it fast. A dissatisfied customer will apparently tell between 10 and 20 other people about their problem, because we like to whinge. A customer who has a problem resolved by a company will tell 5 other people. So again, you can see the cumulative benefits. If you don't deal with them, you're going to lose 10 or 20 other potential customers. If you deal with it well, you're going to get 5 extra people. So this is a graph showing the number of people told based on level of dissatisfaction. So depending on how annoyed they are, you can see they tell more and more people. So what's the action taken based on level of dissatisfaction? where we can see all these trend upwards. So as people are absolutely furious, they tell friends, they complain, they make a fuss, they're not going to use you again, they're dissuading others, and they're complaining against the organisation. So you can see this very strong trend there. The worse things get, the more action is taken. However, if we look down, even if they're slightly annoyed, they're still telling friends, they're still complaining. So even slight discomfort, slight annoyance causes problems. So approaches to service recovery. So case by case addresses each customer's complaint individually. But if you do that, you might end up with individual resolutions and could lead to a perception of unfairness if you treat customers differently. You might want to set up systematic response using standard protocols to handle complaints. But then you've got to identify likely failure points beforehand and continuously update your terms and conditions, your processes for dealing with complaints. Early intervention attempts to fix the problems before the customer is affected, which is obviously ideal. Or substitute service allows rival firms to provide a service, but that could lead to a lot of customers. And that's actually happened to me. I was on an aeroplane trying to get back from Italy, and the plane I was supposed to be on didn't fly, and they moved me over to a different airline, so I got to experience a different airline, which actually wasn't as good. So I still preferred the airline that I was on, but you know, it did give me that opportunity to sample an alternative airline. So this is some reading for you. A review of research on cost of quality models and best practice, International Journal of Quality and Reliability. Maybe you can look that up. And please do see our other videos in our quality series.